Greetings, travelers. Welcome back to the Fractured and Alterac Valley wild card review, this time for the neutral cards. This is the final video, so if you missed the other class card reviews, be sure to check those out in the same playlist. Neutral cards in large sets like this are almost always a mix of two things: outright pack filler and actually high value nut cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to lightly touch on pack filler and then dive into the cards that I think have the most potential, because there are a lot of neutral cards, right? We're going to start with Bloodguard, 5 mana 4/7. Whenever this minion takes damage, give your minions +1 attack. So kind of like Gurubashu Berserker, but AoE instead. This is arena card pack filler-esque. Not really that exciting. We're going to D-tier this. Bunker Sergeant, 3 mana 2/4, Battle Cry. If your opponent has 2 or more minions, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. This is a neutral AoE option. Like, this card's actually probably really strong. Your opponent having 2 or more minions is not a difficult condition to meet, and dealing 1 damage to all enemy minions is often strong enough to clear the board, soften up the board, for other things to be able to clear the board better. I think this card is at least a reasonable good neutral tech card. And good reasonable neutral tech cards belong in B tier. Direwolf Commander is a 3 mana 2/5 with honorable kill, summon a 2/2 wolf with stealth. The 2/2 beast token minions with stealth is not an exciting concept in any of the other classes that we've seen it. It's not exciting here either, even on a 2/5. So we're going to D tier this one. Next is Frantic Hippogriff. 5 mana 3/7 rush, honorable kill, gain Wind Fury. I think this is pack filler. D tier. Frostwolf Warmaster, 4 mana 3/3, costs 1 less for each card you've played this turn. This is a reskinned Happy Ghoul. Happy Ghoul is a playable card, actually quite strong. This is obviously a card that goes very well in decks and classes that play a lot of cheap cards. Like any bum rush strat, like Warlock can do it, Druid can do it, Warrior can do it, like the Rogue Edwin decks can do it. I think this card is going to be a very popular card. I don't know if I'd call it a sleeper. I think it's pretty obvious that this card's good. I haven't heard anyone else talk about it, but I haven't really looked at a lot of reviews. So maybe, I don't know. I might be wrong about it too. Maybe 0 mana 3/3s aren't great. Maybe Frenzied Fellwing is terrible. Maybe Happy Ghoul is terrible. Maybe, no, who am I kidding? This card is awesome. Get in the A tier over there, buddy. Next up, Gangster, 2 mana 4/2, stealth minion. After your opponent plays a minion, attack it. This is the Hunter Secret Snipe, except your opponent sees it coming. That's bad. That is D tier. Herald of Lokholar, 4 mana 3/5 minion with Battle Cry, draw a Frost Spell. This is basically just a slightly larger No Mission Vendor. Not really interested. Yeah, this is a D tier. Humongous Owl, 7 mana 8/4 beast. Death Rattle, deal 8 damage to a random enemy. This card is cool. It's kind of like Dark Moon Tonk, but instead of spreading out the damage, you deal it all to one place, so it's easier to play around. I don't think you have as many cheating options to get this thing out early as you do Dark Moon Tonk, but I mean, I don't know, there's a cool meme with this somewhere. Obviously not a great card, but probably pretty fun. I think I'm fine with calling this C tier. Ice Revenant, 4 mana 4/5 elemental. Whenever you cast a frost spell, gain +2/+2. Yeti with upside? Okay. Is Yeti with upside playable in Wild? No. I guess it's D tier or whatever. Ice Hoof Protector, 6 mana 2/10 minion with taunt. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. It's just a very thick water elemental. Water elemental with taunt? It's the kind of card that's not really good, but it's probably really annoying to deal with. You probably don't really want to put it in a deck, but it's like you get this randomly off of an evolve or something. It's probably not that bad, I guess. All right, anyway, D tier. Iron Deep Trog, 1 mana 1/2 minion. After your opponent casts a spell, summon a copy of this. On the face of it, it's pretty small minion. Might be a little annoying to deal with for certain classes. I think the trick with this is when you start buffing it. Like, you play this with Embiggen, it's 2 mana 3/4 that makes more 3/4s whenever your opponent tries to do anything about it. It can get out of control pretty quickly. Like, I think this card is probably just generically playable in a deck that can support it, which means it's at least B tier. I've seen some people talk about this as like being one of the better cards in the set, which seems a little ambitious because this card only really does something if you are playing certain cards along with it to make it worth, right? By itself, it doesn't really do anything. That being said, when you get it to work, it really works. I'm going to call it B tier. Kobold Taskmaster, 3 mana 2/4, Battle Cry, add 2 armor scraps to your hand that give +2 health to a minion. Weren't we playing like Banana Buffoon and Quest Mage a long time ago? This card's probably better than that. I don't know. Yeah, D tier. Korak the Blood Rager, 4 mana 3/5, Death Rattle. If this wasn't honorably killed, resummon Korak. A 4 mana 3/5 is obviously not really that exciting. A 4 mana 3/5 that is conditionally immortal? Okay, you've got my attention. I think it's interesting to note that not being honorably killed in this context includes things like Shadow Word Pain, Twisting Nether, things like that. A damage-based spell removal still works, of course, like Penance or something, as long as you deal exact damage. You have to deal exact lethal to it. If you don't deal exact lethal, he comes back over and over again until you somehow deal with him. I think it's going to be not hard to honorably kill it for most decks, but some decks are really going to struggle with dealing with this. Another interesting thing is if you control the trades and it dies on your turn, you can bring it back very easily. It's more of an annoyance than anything else. I'm not really that high on this card. I don't think it's very strong, but it's kind of cute. I'm going to go ahead and D tier this one. Legionnaire, 6 mana, 9/3, Death Rattle, give all minions in your hand +2/+2. We had a larger version of this minion, a Nubrak Warbringer. That minion is not playable, neither is this. Yeah, D tier. Piggyback Imp, 3 mana, 4/1, Demon, Death Rattle, summon a 4/1 Imp. That seems really easy to kill, D tier. Reflecto Engineer, 3 mana 2/4 with Battlecry, swap the attack and health of all minions in both players' hands. That's really interesting. This has potential to be kind of a weird tech card. In a world where Spirit of the Shark, Spirit of the Frog are meta tyrants somehow, you play this card and then those cards in your opponent's hand become unplayable, kind of. Like, in reality, they can always top deck their other copies of those cards and play them against you anyway, so it's not really that big of a jam. It could be annoying, could be interesting, could be reasonable in some weird shifted meta. It might enable some combo at some point. Like, this card feels like you should be able to do something with it, but it's not really clear what it is, besides that Spirit of the Shark, Doomsayer jamming thing, or whatever. I'll call it a B because all of the neutral tech cards generally are B tier, but I think it has to be like a weird circumstance for this card to really live up to its potential. All right, next is Ram Commander, 2 mana, 2/2 with Battlecry, add 2 1/1 Rams with Rush to your hand. This is a Quest Rogue card, isn't it? This is just like Bloodsail Flybooter. You play this, you get 2 minions that you can use to complete your quest, then you can Shadow Step this, play this thing again, and you have 4 minions with the same name that complete the quest. These all have Rush, so it has an obvious application there. I think there are probably some other applications too, where you can play Ram Commander and it kind of starts giving you some incremental advantages, like maybe you play this in hand buff or something. I think this card has some potential just as a generic good card. Stick it in with the B cards? I don't see why not. Next is Snowblind Harpy, 3 mana, 3/4. Battlecry, if you're holding a frost spell, gain 5 armor. This is half price Shield Maiden. I still don't think that's very good. Okay, yeah, D tier. Stormpike Marshal, 4 mana, 2/6 taunt. If you took 5 or more damage on your opponent's turn, this costs 1. So it's an anti-aggro mana cheat card. There are a lot of circumstances where you're going to be playing this for 1 mana, so is a 1 mana 2/6 taunt worth it? If you could play it unconditionally, sure. Given the condition and the fact that it's basically an unplayable card otherwise, it's kind of awkward. I think I'm going to err on the side of this being a B tier card, simply because like a 1 mana 2/6 is actually a reasonable stat line, right? Sometimes we play Corridor Creeper as a 2/5 for 0 mana, like 1 mana 2/6, yeah, sure. It's probably pretty good. B tier. Stormpike Quartermaster, 2 mana, 2/2. After you cast a spell, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. Yeah, I've seen some meme combos float around with this. They're not any good. D tier. Tower Sergeant, 4 mana, 4/4. Battlecry, if you control at least 2 other minions, gain +2/+2. It's a best case scenario, 4 mana, 6/6. Pass. D tier. Troll Centurion, 8 mana, 8/8 with Rush. Honorable kill, deal 8 damage to the enemy hero. It's pretty rare that the honorable kill thing happens though, so it's basically 8 mana, 8/8 Rush vanilla, which is not really wild playable. Okay, D tier. Sneaky Scout, 2 mana, 3/2 with Stealth. Honorable kill, your next hero power costs 0. This is Bloodfen Raptor crossed with Fencing Coach. Neither of those cards is any good. D tier. Corporal, 2 mana, 2/3. Honorable kill, give your other minions Divine Shield. This is probably the most obnoxious thing in Arena. It's a good thing we're not playing that format. D tier. Frozen Mammoth, 4 mana, 6/7 beast. This is frozen until you cast a fire spell. Anyone that gives me this card in a viewer deck is going to be banned on the spot. D tier. Popsicooler, 3 mana, 3/3 mech with Death Rattle, freeze 2 random enemy minions. It seems like a lot of hoops to jump through for a Frost Nova. D tier. Lokholar the Ice Lord, 10 mana, 8/8 elemental with Rush and Wind Fury, costs 5 less if you have 15 health or less. Pretty easy to get to less than 15 health in Wild, especially if you're a Warlock. You can play this with Genn Greymane. Might be playable, probably is. Paying 5 mana for your 8/8 seems like a lot to pay for 8/8 if you're playing the kind of deck that plays 8/8 like that. But this has Rush and Wind Fury. Those are some very powerful abilities. 5 mana 8/8 Rush Wind Fury is definitely a playable card. 10 mana 8/8 Rush Wind Fury is obviously terrible. The trick is playing as the first part, not the second. This is a B tier card, assuming that you're playing it in the right deck. Grim Totem Bounty Hunter. 3 mana 4/2 minion. Battle Cry, destroy an enemy legendary minion. What the hell, we can always use another big game hunter variant, right? Probably at some point this is going to be B tier. Spammy Arcanist. 5 mana 3/4 with Battle Cry. Deal 1 damage to all other minions. If any die, repeat this. It's neutral Defile, but it costs 2.5 times as much. Ugh. But I mean, Defile's really strong, so maybe? I don't know. Probably C tier. Ibis the Frost Lord. 1 mana 1/1 with Battle Cry. Spend the rest of your mana and gain +2/+2 Rush, Divine Shield, or Taunt at random. So my understanding of how this card works is you can't gain abilities more than once. There, if you spent 5 mana for this card, you probably have a 3/3 Rush, Divine Shield, Taunt. The last time we had a 5 mana Rush, Divine Shield, Taunt 3/3, it was a 3/2 that had lifesteal. Its name was Ziliax. That card was everywhere. So card's probably respectable. It's not always gonna be that stat line though. Like statistically, it's probably going to be missing one of those keywords and have an extra +2/+2. So a 5 mana 5/5 with like Russian Divine Shield is pretty good. 5 mana 5/5 Divine Shield Taunt's pretty good. Rush Taunt's not that good. The more mana you spend on it, the better it gets, obviously. So by the time you're spending like 6-7 mana, like 7 mana is a 7/7 Rush Divine Shield Taunt. 8 mana is a 9/9 Rush Divine Shield Taunt, and you just keep going. I guess the dream is you play Wild Heart Guff and you you spend 20 mana on it. Is it a good generic card? I think it has a lot to compete with in Wild. It's probably nuts in Standard though, or at least pretty decent. All right, I'm gonna B tier it, I guess. Abominable Lieutenant, 8 mana 3/5. At the end of your turn, eat a random enemy minion and gain its stats. So this is like Runaway Blackwing, except it's guaranteed to kill the thing, but it doesn't have the big stats up front. Very similar effect otherwise, right? There might be a big priest deck that plays this that's kind of obnoxious. I don't know. It's a neat card to look at. There's probably some application, but obviously nothing too silly. I'm gonna C tier this one. Next up, Night Captain. 5 mana 3/3, Battle Cry, deal 3 damage, honorable kill, gain +3/+3. If it was an honorable kill, this card would be okay. Like, would you play Fire Elemental? Like, Fire Elemental hasn't really been that good in a long time. Okay, this is D tier. Gnome Private, 1 mana 1/3 with honorable kill, gain +2 attack. This is a respectable 1/3 minion, I guess. Like, you play this early, they play something that has 1 health, you trade it in, you get a 3/2 or a 3/1 or something, and you can keep buffing it and keep going. I guess it's the kind of card that's designed to trade very well early on in the game, which is respectable. Probably doesn't have an obvious home, but I don't see it as being completely unplayable. We'll go ahead and C tier it. All right, the last two are cards we're already familiar with. These are the pre-release legendaries. The pre-release legendary for the Alliance, Vandar Stormpike, 4 mana 4/4 Battle Cry. If this costs less than every minion in your deck, reduce their cost by 3. This is the weaker of the two in Wild, or I haven't seen anyone really play this. No matter what level, no matter what rank, Vandar hasn't really inspired them very much interest. That might change after the new expansion though, because players were forced to choose between Drekthar and Vandar, and Drekthar is just better, right? So why would you deny yourself the ability to play with Drekthar unless you really, really, really wanted to go in on Alliance? So I don't know. What deck does this go in? Something big, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't really work very well with other mana cheat engines. It's kind of awkward. Hasn't really been very well explored yet. I don't know. It feels like kind of a bust to me, but maybe eventually we find something silly, but probably not if you consider that Briskindle Roost is a card that's very similar to this. Like, it does what this thing does, but for dragons. It doesn't have the same kind of hard requirements. That card saw negligible play, so kind of disappointing. We're going to go ahead and C tier this card. which I think is probably just being generous. Okay, and the last card, the Horde pre-release legendary, Drekthar. 4 mana, 4/4, battle cry. If this costs more than every minion in your deck, summon 2 of them. We've already had a chance to explore this card. We know it's kind of stupid. So the common uses right now are to either fetch up specific minions or to just fetch up additional beef in an aggro deck, right? Like, it has parallels with Call to Arms, does a very similar thing. It can get some very high value minions. If played properly, you can get about 10 mana worth of stuff for 4 mana. It's clearly very good. The trouble with this is it locks you out of playing larger minions. Doesn't work with getting Greymane, doesn't work with stuff like Sunkeeper Totem or any other large late game minions, so it's kind of locked into being played with small minion aggro decks and with small minion combo decks. There are a couple small minion combos. Play this in APM Mage with Flame Waker, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Stargazer Luna, stuff like that, and just go nuts. I've also seen it with Face Rogue Shell, where this card fetches Arcane Golems. You go face with the Arcane Golems, you can Shadow Step the Arcane Golems, get even more damage without having Arcane Golems drawback. I think that deck's a little underexplored. It seems to be at least playable, we'll give it that. Like, Drekthar's seen a lot of play in Wild. It hasn't really broken the meta or anything, though, so it's safe to call this card an A-tier card because it inspires archetypes. So yeah, definitely one of the better cards of the set. All right, so that is it for Fractured and Alterac Valley. Overall, most of the cards seem pretty average. Not very much A-tier. The best cards in the set, in my estimation, are Claw Fury Adept, Side in the Scarlet, Shadowcrafter Scaps, Sleepbreaker, Shield Shatter, Captain Galvangar, Frostwolf Warmaster, and Drekthar. Nothing that really stands out to me as broken, like in the sense that it's gonna like turn Wild upside down or anything. It might be a thing where I've underestimated a lot of the hero cards. Like, I only had Scabs as A tier, and most of the hero cards were actually like C tier. Some of them were B, and I think B was generous for something like Wild Heart Guff, honestly. A lot of the hero cards are kind of washed out compared to older hero cards, especially the first wave from Knights of the Frozen Throne. They clearly designed these cards with the lessons from the previous Death Knights in mind. Responsible card design, who would have guessed? That's not to say that these cards are bad, right? Like, I think this is a pretty average distribution, and I'm probably underrating some of these cards because I haven't played with any of these cards before. I don't know what's good and what's not. I know about as much as you know. We're gonna leave the template up for the tier makers, so you can make your own tier if you want. Willing to share. I'm going to distribute my tier list after the videos, give a link to it in the description, something like that. So I hope you had fun with it. If you want to support this content on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, and share on the video. Thank you for watching.